Vtubers. You probably know them. Usually anime girls with interesting proportions and cute personalities, VTubing has blown up over the past 3 years. Personalities like Iron Mouse and Shy Lily gained millions of followers without ever revealing who's really behind their characters. It's probably one of the most fun and artistic ways to be a faceless creator. As an animator, I've always been inspired by the work that goes into models like these, and I've always really wanted to try it myself. Since I graduated college in 2023, I've had one single animation-related contract that ended a couple weeks ago. My thesis year was pretty rough for me artistically, and I really missed learning new things and just being excited about animation. So now that I'm jobless, I thought I'd do something new and learn live 2D. To make things maybe a little bit easier, I decided to use an existing character of mine, my Final Fantasy XIV paladin, Evie Kivrivi. I started the game a few months ago and I really enjoy it so far, especially because I have a max level friend who will make me all the outfits I want. I thought Evie would be pretty on brand to be a VTuber since she's an adorable little cat girl, so I started with doing a few sketches of her in my sketchbook to get an idea of her design and my style. I love the in-game art style of Final Fantasy, but I feel like I can never capture their exact proportions. But anyway, after I got a sense of how I wanted her to look, I got started on the sketch in Photoshop. The outfit I chose is based on her most common in-game look, but simplified a little to work better with my art style. Evie's a tank, so when I'm questing, I almost always want her wearing armor. As much as I like the glamour and outfit customization Final Fantasy offers, the one thing I wish I had was the ability to wear glasses and a hat at the same time. I don't want to give up Evie's circlet, but I also want her to wear glasses all the time because I wear glasses and I want my character to wear glasses. I've been told the glasses thing is probably coming, but I don't want to wait anymore. For 99.9% of all of this drawing I did, the Photoshop symmetry tool was my best friend. The only place I didn't do this were her bangs, since in the design they're asymmetrical, and I thought it would add a little bit more interest to her face if everything else was symmetrical, and that was the only part that wasn't. I experimented with a few different parts of her outfit, but I ended up keeping it relatively simple compared to the in-game design just because it was a lot easier to fit for my style. The rough sketch also helped me get an idea of what each layer of her clothing was, like from the shirt to the jacket to the armor and everything else. It was also fun coming up with things like the sleeves and the side pieces of armor as secondary objects that would move with her head turns and body movements to add a little bit more life to her. For colors, I really liked the red, black, and white theme I had going on. I just wanted it to pop a little bit more, so I raised the saturation on the red towards the end. I also added a few gold accents here and there, but not all of them made it into the final drawing. The initial sketch was really helpful for me. I think it prevented a lot of mistakes I could have made if I didn't go into it like this first. But that being said, there were a few things I did have to go back and correct while working on the finished model. And with that, here's the final rough version of Evie's model. And with the rough done, I moved on to cleanup. The entire clean model took me about 5 days to complete. I would work on it after I logged off of my animation job for the day, and I'd work from around 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Although rigging took me longer, I'd argue that the art was the most tedious part of making a VTuber. I started out keeping each object separate, like each piece of hair and the left and right eyes, but as I went on, I realized it was a lot easier to make everything cohesive if I did it together and separated later. At first I wanted to put the entire speed paint in this video, but I realized halfway through that I have way too many hours of that, so we're just gonna take a look at a few different clips so you can get an idea of my process for each different part of the body. The most challenging part for me during cleanup was probably the hair. For some reason, I couldn't figure out how to separate the top of the head with the bangs and make them look like they're still part of the same object. But eventually I realized I just need to do the whole thing together, shade it all together, and then I can separate it from there. Once the art was all done, I got into arguably the worst part of this project, which was separating each piece of her body onto its own layer. There were some mistakes I made with this that I came to find out later, but if you're curious, here are all of the layers from the completed file from after I finished rigging and doing everything in Live 2D. So after what felt like years of long, tedious work, I got to rigging. Which, if you've never rigged anything in your life before, is also extremely long and tedious. But if you ask me, it's also the best part because that is the first time you get to see your character come to life. As a disclaimer, I have made a VTuber before, but this is the first time I've ever done a full body one, and the only other one I did was around 3 years ago. Although Live 2D as a program maybe hasn't changed so much in the past 3 years, I think VTuber animating and rigging techniques have. So there was a lot left over that I still needed to learn. My favorite tutorial series, especially for rigging, was the one by Chupico. I did use her videos for the art portion, but I watched and rewatched most of them during the rigging. Every time I animate, I rewatch it over and over again because it's so cool to watch my drawings come to life and think, I did that. So as soon as I finished the eyes, I hopped right into the physics simulator and checked everything out. One of the most egregious mistakes I made with this model that gave me the most trouble was not realizing I'd need an extra piece of hair to cover up the side of her head when she's turning. Final Fantasy catgirls don't have ears, so it made this especially weird to look at. I ended up making a really scuffed cover piece that gave me a lot of trouble throughout the whole rigging process, but I made it work, and although I'm not entirely happy with it, it's good enough for me. Along with that, the head angles as a whole gave me a lot of trouble while I was rigging. I should have made a 3/4 reference view either in the clean or even in the rough, because as much as I thought I knew how to do a 3/4 view, turning everything and moving everything to the side individually was a completely different beast, and the first time I put it into VTube Studio, it looked crazy. Here's my first test in the physics simulator of the head turn with everything all together. I was really proud of it at this point, but I still had a really long way to go. The body in comparison felt like a breeze because I didn't have to worry about all of those moving parts. I just had to turn a little bit this way and a little bit that way. Again, I wanted to fit this all into one video, and the rigging footage I have is very long, so we're not going to watch the whole thing. And personally, I can't wait to see the final product. This is the first test I did in Live 2D. You can see I exported the texture map wrong, so that little shine on her nose is a weird pixel, but I went back in and I fixed it later. I also originally attached the ears moving up and down to the mouth smile parameter, but as I was testing the talking and everything, I realized it looked a little bit too jerky with all the mouth movements, so I changed it to the eyebrows. So without further ado, here's Evie. There were a few things I wanted to add to her, like more mouth movements or maybe some different emotions, but I prefer to clean up different parts of her, like these little scuffed hair pieces, before getting into anything extra. I'm just not sure if it would be easier to start with a new model, knowing what I know now, or to just take the time and redo certain parts of her. I don't really have any plans going forward to be a VTuber or a streamer, so for my purposes, this one single video, the model works great. Thank you for watching, and if you made it this far, don't hesitate to let me know what you think. This is my first time making a video like this, and I'd love to hear any feedback and opinions. I actually recorded a whole other voiceover to this video until I realized it was so dry and boring that I could not post that. I think my retake is a lot better, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in my other art, you can check out all my socials in the description. Thank you, bye!